You are 19 years old, and the last time you were truly warm was 6 days ago, in a barn outside Bastogne that smelled like hay and diesel. You don't remember deciding to stop feeling your toes. It happens the way most disasters happen to you now, quietly, underneath something louder. Right now, the louder thing is artillery, somewhere east, rolling like furniture being dragged across a floor upstairs. Your name is Danny Kowalski. Before this, you fixed radios in your uncle's shop on Penn Avenue in Scranton, Pennsylvania. You are a private first class in the 106th Infantry Division, and 3 days ago, your regiment was surrounded so fast that men who'd been swapping cigarettes at breakfast were prisoners by lunch. You were not one of them. You are not sure yet whether that counts as luck. 6 months ago, you were still a civilian. You enlisted the week you turned 18, over your mother's objections and your father's silence, which you understood even then as its own kind of permission. Basic training happened fast. The Army needed riflemen faster than it could train them properly, and by autumn you were on a troop ship crossing an ocean you'd never seen, seasick, homesick, and certain in the particular way only teenagers are certain that none of the bad things happened to you personally. The 106th arrived in Europe in early December, green, undermanned, and assigned to a stretch of the Ardennes front that headquarters considered quiet, a place to season new divisions gently. Nobody told the Germans that plan. It is December 19th, 1944. The Ardennes forest does not look like the postcards. It looks like a black and white photograph someone forgot to add color to. Snow stacked heavy in the pine boughs, sky the color of a dead radio channel, the kind of cold that gets inside a wool coat and just stays there. Your squad, what's left of it, is dug into a tree line above a logging road nobody has named on any map you've seen. There were 11 of you 4 days ago. There are 4 of you now. Sergeant Earl Whitfield, 31, off a dairy farm in Wisconsin, who has not raised his voice once since the encirclement, which somehow scares you more than shouting would. Corporal Sam Reyes, quick hands, quicker mouth, the kind of guy who narrates his own bad luck like it's somebody else's problem. And Gene Holt, 18, 4 months in uniform, who still writes Dear Mom and Dad at the top of letters he never finishes. You remember the 16th clearly, the way you remember very few things clearly anymore. Before dawn that morning, the German artillery opened up along the whole front at once, a sound like the sky itself tearing, and within hours reports were coming in of German columns pushing through gaps in the line that headquarters had sworn were impossible to breach. By the 17th, your regiment's flanks were gone, radio contact with higher command was gone, and Whitfield had stopped waiting for orders that weren't coming and started making his own. You watched 200 men from a neighboring company march out under a white flag on the 18th, hands laced behind their heads, and you understood in that moment that surviving this week was not going to look like anything the war movies back home had prepared you for. Your boots are the real problem now, and nobody warned you about that in training. They train you on rifles, on grenades, on keeping your head down. Nobody trains you on the fact that the standard issue M1943 combat boot, good leather, honestly built, was designed for a war that assumed you'd occasionally sleep somewhere dry. It was never built for 3 straight days in a foxhole half full of snowmelt, in weather 20 degrees colder than anyone at headquarters planned for when they wrote the supply requisitions back in the summer. You've had wet feet since the 18th. Yesterday your left foot stopped hurting. That is not good news, and you know it, because Whitfield told you exactly that back at Schnee Eifel, in the flat voice he saves for things that actually matter. Pain's your friend out here, he said. Day it stops hurting is the day you start losing it for good. The morning starts the way most mornings start now, with Reyes swearing at his own boots. He pulls the left one off and the sock comes away wet and gray, and underneath, his foot has gone the color of a bruise that hasn't decided what it wants to become yet. That's not frostbite, he says, to nobody, like saying it out loud will make it true by force of will alone. Holt looks away fast. You look down at your own boot and don't take it off, because some quiet animal part of you understands that not looking is its own kind of survival this morning. Whitfield crouches beside Reyes and doesn't touch the foot at first. He just studies it, 3 long seconds, the way he'd study a map before deciding which way not to go. Trench foot, he finally says. Not frostbite yet, but it's driving that direction, and it's driving fast. Here is what almost nobody back home understands about your war this week. The 106th has been cut off since the 16th. 2 of your regiments are already gone entirely, surrendered whole. Thousands of American soldiers marched off into captivity in what will turn out to be the largest mass surrender of US troops in the entire European war, though that phrase won't exist for years, not until historians build it out of exactly mornings like this one. What's left of your division is scattered through these woods, in isolated pockets, low on ammunition, lower on food, radios cutting in and out, and the weather has become a second enemy nobody assigned you to fight. The temperature drops well below 0 most nights now. Supply trucks can't reach half the units still holding ground out here. And somewhere behind German lines, encircled, freezing, waiting on a relief nobody can honestly promise, is a fact that never made it onto any recruiting poster back in Scranton. More American soldiers in these woods this month will lose toes, feet, and fingers to the cold than will ever be hit by a bullet. Whitfield makes the call before noon. You're not moving today. Moving means exposure on open ground. And exposure right now, in this cold, with 3 of you already compromised, might finish what the weather started before the enemy ever gets the chance. Staying put means staying wet, which means the clock already running on Reyes's foot, and probably on yours, and probably on Holt's, keeps ticking whether anybody wants it to or not. Whitfield goes quiet a minute, working something over behind his eyes. Then he says something that doesn't sound anything like army doctrine. My grandfather was in the First War, he says. Trenches in France, 1917. Told me once about something the old-timers there used to rig up when the boots and the mud got them. Sounds like nonsense. Might not be. He holds his hand out to Reyes for the wax paper still folded around what's left of his K-ration crackers. Reyes hands it over, like it's the strangest request he's heard all war. And by this point in your war, that is genuinely saying something. What Whitfield is describing, though none of you have a name for it yet, and won't for decades, is a trick born the same way most survival tricks are born. Out of desperation, in exactly this kind of cold. The idea sounds too simple to matter. Your foot isn't dying from cold alone, it's dying from wet. Sweat and snowmelt sit trapped against bare skin, and every single time that moisture evaporates off you, it pulls body heat out 50 times faster than dry cold ever could on its own. If you can stop the moisture from moving, trap it in one sealed layer instead of letting it soak straight through boot, sock, and skin, you slow the whole disaster down to something survivable. Whitfield takes the wax paper, flattens it out against his knee, and wraps it directly against Reyes's bare foot before the sock goes back on. A vapor barrier. Something crude, to hold the wet in one place instead of letting it wick through every single layer between skin and frozen ground. That's it? Reyes says, staring at him. Paper? Paper and dead air, Whitfield says. And now he's got you and Holt scraping together anything dry within reach. Dried grass pulled from under the snow crust at the base of a fir tree, a flattened scrap of ration cardboard, a strip of an old newspaper someone had stuffed in a pack for no reason anyone remembers, packing it into the space between the wax paper and the boot leather. Trapped, still air doesn't conduct cold the way packed, saturated material does. It isn't medicine. It isn't warmth exactly. But for the first time in 4 days, it's something. Before we go any further, if this is the kind of history you actually want more of, drop a comment telling me which front you want next. Hit like right now so this reaches more people who need to hear it. And subscribe, because we're bringing you a story like this every single week. By early afternoon, the shelling has crept closer, and Whitfield calls it, "You're not staying dug in after all." Word comes down the line in fragments, past foxhole to foxhole in whispers. A column is forming to try to break through towards St. Vith before the ring around your division closes any tighter. You've got maybe 3 hours of usable daylight left and no real idea how many hours remain before the temperature drops hard enough to finish what's already started quietly in Reyes's boot. That is the entire math of your afternoon now. Not miles covered, not the enemy waiting somewhere out in the trees, just hours stacked against a body that is failing in a way nobody back in Scranton would ever recognize as a battle wound. You move. The column threads single file through timber that all looks exactly the same. Black trunks, white ground, the far-off cough of artillery that never quite stops long enough to forget about. Holt walks like a man testing ice he doesn't trust with his own weight. Twice he stumbles and catches himself without a single sound, because sound out here has a price nobody wants to pay. You keep your eyes locked on Reyes's back, on the slight hitch that's crept into his stride since morning, and you find yourself doing something you didn't plan on, timing your own steps to his, like matching his pace exactly might somehow let you carry some small share of what's happening inside his boot. An hour in, a German patrol crosses your route half a mile out, 4 shapes visible for a few unbearable seconds through a gap in the trees, before the whole column freezes, drops flat, and waits. Nobody breathes loud. You watch the shapes move along a distant ridge and vanish into the tree line, and you understand, in the total silence that follows, that the difference between today becoming a story you tell someday and today becoming the end of your story entirely was a matter of wind direction, nothing more. Nothing happened. Everything could have. Dusk arrives fast in the Ardennes in December. Not a slow fade, more like someone reaching over and pulling a switch. The column stops in a shallow draw to reorganize before the last push toward the loose American lines forming near St. Vith. Whitfield checks Reyes's foot again by flashlight cupped tight inside his jacket collar, and for the first time all day something in his face loosens, just slightly, at the edges. The wax paper held. It isn't dry. Nothing out here is dry. Nothing has been dry in 6 days. But the moisture stayed contained instead of soaking straight through every layer, and the color in Reyes's foot hasn't slid any further in the wrong direction. It bought time. Not a cure. Time. Out here tonight, with the temperature already falling, that is close enough to a miracle that nobody actually says the word out loud, because saying it feels like tempting whatever is still deciding how the rest of this night goes. Nearing the perimeter, the column has to cross one last stretch of open field before the tree line resumes, and a farmhouse sits alone at its edge. Dark windows, a chimney with no smoke. Whitfield holds the column up, watching it a long moment before deciding it's empty. It isn't quite. A dog, half-starved and shivering under what's left of a porch, comes stumbling out toward you as you pass, tail low, and Holt, 18 years old, 4 months a soldier, further from Ohio than he's ever been in his life, breaks formation just long enough to crouch and press half a biscuit into the animal's mouth before Whitfield's hand closes on his collar and hauls him back into line without a word. Nobody mentions it again. You will remember it anyway, for the rest of your life, longer than you'll remember most of the men you fought beside that winter. You reach the edge of the American perimeter near St. Vith, just after full dark, half frozen, down to a quarter of your original squad, entirely unsure whether you count as lucky men or simply men who haven't run out of luck yet. A medic checks Reyes's foot under a hanging lantern in a farmhouse cellar, crowded with other soldiers' boots, stacked by the door, like something out of a story about the dead nobody wants to finish telling. Trench foot, the medic says, echoing Whitfield's exact words from that morning. Bad. Not amputation bad, not yet. He studies the wax paper, the packed grass and collapsed cardboard, filthy and half-crushed, and he doesn't laugh at it the way you half expected him to. Where'd you people learn this? He asks. Whitfield just shrugs, the way he shrugs off most things. Old man's war, he says. Figured the cold hasn't changed a whole lot since then. That night, in a cellar with no heat and 11 other men breathing in the dark around you, you finally take your own boot off for the first time in 3 straight days. Your foot is not good. It is not Reyes's foot either. Not yet. Not that far gone. You sit there in the lantern light, working feeling back into your toes one at a time. And Holt, beside you, unlacing his own boots with hands that won't quite stop shaking, finally says the thing none of you have said out loud yet. I thought the war was going to be the part that killed us, he says quietly. You don't have an answer for that. You're not sure there is one worth giving. The Battle of the Bulge will grind on for 6 more weeks after this single night. The largest and bloodiest battle American forces will fight in the entire war, fought in a cold that killed as efficiently and as quietly as any German gun ever could. Tens of thousands of American soldiers will be pulled off these lines with frostbite and trench foot before it's finally over, some losing toes, a smaller number losing feet outright. Every single one of them learning exactly what you learned in a foxhole above a nameless logging road. That survival out here was never only about the enemy standing somewhere in front of you. It was about a second war being fought quietly, inside your own boots, 1 degree at a time. Every single hour you didn't notice you were fighting it. You keep the scrap of wax paper. It makes no practical sense to keep it. It's filthy now, useless, nothing but a torn piece of trash. But you fold it into your jacket pocket anyway, next to a letter from your mother you still haven't finished reading, because the last line of it always makes your chest go tight in a way you don't have time for out here. Reyes keeps his boots off that entire first night in the cellar, foot propped up on a folded blanket, and somewhere around 2 in the morning he says, to the dark, to nobody in particular, tell my kids about this one day. Tell them a scrap of paper saved my foot before the whole United States Army managed to. Nobody laughs at that. Nobody argues with it either. Years later, you will tell this story exactly once, to a grandson who asks what the war was really like, expecting something about rifles and heroics. Instead, you will tell him about a piece of wax paper torn off a cracker ration and a sergeant's grandfather from an entirely different war, and 3 hours in the Ardennes where the whole world narrowed down to the thin distance between wet and dry, between warm and gone for good. You will tell him that some of the men who saved your life that winter never fired a single shot to do it. You will tell him the cold was the real enemy that week, patient, silent, and everywhere at once. And that one old, half-forgotten trick, paper and dead air, and a sergeant willing to try something that sounded like nonsense, was the only weapon any of you had left against it that night. And you will tell him that in the worst winter of the worst battle your country ever fought, that was enough. It was enough to bring you home.